But I was the second German ever to go under that barrier, and it was a childhood dream of mine to break 22 seconds.
Now, if you get to talk to a bunch of people like that, you start being like, okay, you start to put the pattern together, and that you can't get.
There is a lot of power in believing into yourself, and again, entering an environment in which you also feel that the coach or the program, they have your back and they believe in you. I trained by myself a lot. I would fly on training camps for 5 weeks by myself and coach myself. I loved when Live Golf came out, the amount of shit these athletes got for signing and then them ending up merging after 2 years.
All right, from 5-year-old in Western Germany to Tokyo in 2020, from D2 dominance to world championship podiums, and now stepping into a brand new arena with the Enhanced Games. Today, we're talking pressure, performance, and the truth behind chasing the edge. This is the 1% Club podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Freitas. Let's get it. Marius Kusch is a German sprint specialist, butterfly and freestyle, Olympian, European champion, world champion, bronze medalist, and 3-time NCAA national champ with the Queen's University of Charlotte. He's trained inside some of the best systems on the planet, from the Olympic training stage in Essen to pro groups in San Diego and Indiana, before returning to North Carolina for the last push. Finishing 8th at Worlds in 2024. In 2025, he joined the Enhanced Games, planting a flag in the conversation about athletic autonomy, science, and the future of the sport. Thank you so much for being on here today, man. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay. So leaving home at 16 for Olympic Training Center, what did that actually cost you? Because it's such a young age to commit to something so big.
Yeah, so my dad actually was the one kind of planting that seed and asking me about it. And he actually asked me at age 15. I wasn't ready then. I remember being at home thinking about it, and I was thinking, I don't know if I'm ready to leave, the nest, all my friends. And then the following year, I thought about it more, and I was like, you know what? I really love swimming. I've been watching a lot of professional swimming at that point, and that was the next logical step. But yeah, I think everyone can understand at that age, you move out. It's the next closest. Essen was an hour and a half away, 2 hours away. I was living with another guy. You share your rooms, kind of like a college dorm situation.
Okay.
It was a big challenge in the beginning, but I was always someone, I like the unknown. It was like someone throwing you into cold water, and I'm all about it.
I think that's amazing. What's one thing that German high performance pipeline did right for you?
Oh, there's so many things. I'm very grateful. But for me, being exposed to Olympians, at that time when I joined that group, we were all about the same age. We were over 20 guys, all with the same goal, maybe making the Olympic team. At that Olympic training center, we were in the youth group, and you had one group that was just full with Olympians, people who swam, at the Olympics multiple times. Someone had a world record. And so they would usually train after us, and you're in the locker room, you see them, they're, the way how they carry themselves, the confidence and everything. You see everyone has the Olympic rings tatted on their body, so you see that and you're like, oh man, I gotta figure out a way to get that too. And yeah, just being exposed, and when somebody tells you that is an Olympian at that age, I'm like, okay, sick. What does that mean? And you see how intentional they are about nutrition, about the smallest detail. When I would have conversations with them about swimming and I asked them for feedback, they were able to go into such depth in their swimming stroke where I was thinking, oh, holy shit, I have never really thought about that. And you just get a perspective for, okay, I guess I have a lot more to go. I have a lot more that I can learn. Yeah, and that paired with discipline, hard work, I think that was a really powerful combination.
Well, what's amazing now is like you're on the other side of that, where I'm sure you've been, training multiple times and people are actually watching you. And that's an amazing full life circle that comes about. What was the one most important takeaway that you learned from, in essence, being a product of your environment? Because it's rare that you get placed in an environment that is conducive to results. So what's the biggest thing that you took away from that experience? I would definitely say at that age when I wasn't exposed to high-level performance so far is, I was blessed. I had a very great coach, but being like a sponge, absorbing the knowledge around you, not entering an environment thinking you have it figured out, you know everything, and, approaching it almost
with a little bit of an attitude, cockiness. I was always someone, I didn't really care if there was someone and I knew I was maybe faster than them. I think that there's always something that you can learn from that person. And, let's forward almost a decade after, I was training with, some of the best coaches on the planet. And sometimes my coach at that time would, walk over to a lifeguard. And if the lifeguard had something cool to say, if he had a cool drill or he would do something on land, my coach, who ended up producing over 50 Olympic medalists, would walk over, ask him for feedback, be real quiet and listen. And, that was something that that was the mantra also of my career, never thinking you know it all and going into an environment and being like a sponge, absorbing everything you can. And at the end of the day, you'll figure out what is helpful, what isn't. But I think that openness is really, really important if you want to progress consistently.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great base for my next question is, you chose a Division II program and still became a world-class swimmer. Those are my favorite stories. So why D2 and what chip did that put on your shoulder?
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you have conversations and you talk to a coach and they tell you, we have done this with our program, we have won that, and accolades and all that stuff is really nice. And that was one of my experiences going into these conversations. A lot of the times, coaches or programs would talk about what they've done, but I don't really care so much. I can go on the internet and I can look it up. And in fact, I'm the type of person, when you and I have a conversation, I already know what you accomplished. I know exactly what you have done. I want to hear what type of plan you have with me. Where do you see me going and how do we get there? Those are the conversations that I find way more valuable than telling me you won NCAAs 10 times or whatnot, And ultimately, I chose Division II, full honesty, because of my eligibility. We had some issues there, so I had to go to Division II. But looking back at it, if you could now, if I would have essentially a free pick to go to whatever college, I wouldn't choose differently. I would go to that same school again because they had a very clear path. They had very clear expectations, and they were able to verbalize it in a way where they said, this is where you are now, but with our help, this is where you can be, and we believe in you. And that's all I needed to hear.
And, I think that's great. So for anyone listening, obviously for any sport, but, man, I wasn't good enough, or I didn't get put into D1. Maybe I went to D3. Maybe I went to D2. What is the one piece of advice you can give them to make the most impact on kind of framing their mindset to think a little bit larger? Don't
get caught up in the numbers. The numbers don't matter. You can look at the spreadsheet all you want. You can look at your times, how fast you are in theory. It's all great, but there is a lot of power in believing into yourself, and again, entering an environment in which you also feel that the coach or the program, they have your back and they believe in you. And even if I remember we had this guy on our team. He came in, he was my height. He was 265 pounds in his freshman year. We had these ropes coming off the ceiling where you had to climb up, get to the ceiling and do pull-ups. And I remember he tried to pull himself out and he could barely make it past his belly. And that guy ended up whooping my ass in one of the events 3 years later. And I remember looking at him in the beginning and thinking, if he would have come in and said, well, for whatever reasons, I can't do this, I won't be able to achieve that, then he probably wouldn't have. But especially when you're in these environments, everyone is going to put in the work. And at the end of the day, I think believing in yourself is so important. And I know it sounds a little kooky and whatnot, but talk to some of the best athletes on the planet. Outside of swimming, they'll tell you the same thing. And yeah, you got to carry yourself a certain way and it'll translate.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just the other day I was thinking how blessed in my career to have, I think yesterday we had 6 different pro athletes for 6 different sports. And I'm like, wow, what a amazing community that was created. And I don't even know that I'm doing that, but I'm listening to everyone. I'm watching everyone interact with other athletes and having a great time. It was like, that was special to me. Like that was the North Star. That's what I wanted to create, not just for athletes, but for everyone, just to be able to be in an environment that, was going to push you to your limit, but also take into account mental health, also take into account physical, also take into account, making sure that people don't get injured. That was always the most important for for me.
Yeah, honestly, you have a perfect breeding ground for that. And, going back to what we just talked about, I think that is also so heavily overlooked a lot of the times. You got to create that environment, in which you enter and everyone is on the same page. Like, hey, we can have fun and whatnot. But the second we enter Project Wellbeing the gym, or I enter the pool deck, that's when we stop messing around and we're here for a reason. And that too, that is something, the culture, that aspect of it is so important. When you have a team, everyone is on the same page, you push each other, and you also, and I think that is also difficult for a lot of coaches, put their ego aside and sometimes let the athletes, let the people figure it out. Like on this level, a coach can only help you so much. At some point, you as an athlete, you're going to have to figure it out. And if you're in environments like these where you can experiment, you can test, you can be open-minded, and if you bring a new idea to the table, you don't have anyone saying, oh, what the hell is this? That's what destroys progress. And that's really nice why I like being here. I'm very picky with my training environments. Last couple of years I've been more like a lonely wolf, but I like being out here. It's a really amazing environment, and that's important.
Yeah, I think when we were doing all your guys' consults, I specifically was saying, hey, we're not here to change anything that made you great, that you've achieved yourself, but 1 or 2% little tweaks that we can make, right? That require constant feedback. And I appreciate your attention to detail, because I think that other people notice it. I for sure do. But honestly, it helps me too. It helps me provide an experience that is conducive for the things that you want to achieve as well.
Yeah, attention for detail is making my inner German very happy.
Yeah. So I realized that I was like, oh, he has a finance degree. That's why he's so attention to detail. So you graduated with a finance degree. How did that risk return mindset shape the way you train, pick coaches, and pick the environments that you're in?
I think whenever you have an opportunity presented, you have to think about, is it worth pursuing that opportunity? What are the opportunity costs associated with it? What else can you not do by taking a chance here? And at the end of the day, you have to look at these things. You have to figure out, is it worth pursuing? Is it not worth pursuing? Mitigating risk if you want so. But yeah, I feel like a lot of the times, I like to relate, or I like to hear from my gut feeling. I think when it comes to these things, I go a lot with feeling. When I'm in the water, when I do certain things, and I can usually catch a vibe pretty quick. But yeah, I would say, look at the pros, look at the cons. Do the pros outweigh the cons? Is there a real shot for you? If the answer is yes, do it.
I love that. That I think brings me up to a really important question. So enhanced games, you joined the enhanced games this year. Why step into that arena? And what problem are you trying to solve for athletes? What message are you trying to send them?
Well, I was very intrigued by it. I would be lying if I'm saying I wasn't intrigued by it. I have been tested my whole career. I've been always playing by the rules. That's the number one most important thing. I've said this in a lot of other interviews, but the traditional system has to stay clean, under every circumstance. It has to remain like that. There's no room for cheating or for anything else. And someone who doesn't play by the rules, in my opinion, they should be punished very, very harsh. This is its own category. This is its own league. I mean, where do the enhanced games going to take place? They're not going to be in Athens. They're not going to be in Berlin. They're going to be in Las Vegas. So there is an entertainment factor to it, of course. I am very interested by it. Also, in my story, in that sense, is not unique. A lot of Olympic athletes are struggling financially, trying to make ends meet. And especially, I'm age 32 now. I've been dedicating my whole life to this. I've been building my craft, and now essentially I have an opportunity to capitalize on that.
Absolutely.
And it goes further than that. If I'm an immigrant in this country, America, you eat or you get eaten at the end of the day. And my parents, for example, they're in an age now where they're getting closer and closer to retirement. And we as a family, we've had a lot of sacrifices. My sacrifice looks more like not being able to spend so much time with them, missing a lot of things, so that we as a family were able to achieve that. And, my parents sacrificed a lot too. A lot of the things that they couldn't do, to get me to practice, to get me to go to practice. And you know, it is important for me. I want to give back. And you know, my parents don't get younger. I live in Florida. Florida is quite nice at the end of the year, whereas Germany gets cold as shit. So it's nice being able to bring them over and you know, not having to worry, how can I do that? How can I make a living? So there's multiple aspects. But my big hope with this, and we already start to see this, is that there are conversations, you know, from the IOC, from World Aquatics, like, why is it that athletes aren't getting paid? Is it because there's no money? No, that's not it. It's because of the distribution. Why is it that the athlete isn't getting up anything from it? And you know, by more people joining the Enhanced Games, it's going to be a conversation that they'll have to have.
Yeah, and you know, at the end of the day, like, you guys do the work. You're the entertainer, and we're the consumer. So we have to compensate you guys fairly. You know, it's you know, before you know, a lot of people knew, like, you know, like in the UFC, you're not making no money. You make $5,000 a fight in the beginning of your career, and you have a full-time job. Yep. You have no money, you have a full-time job, and you get the shit beat out of you. But then you're asked to, hey man, somehow you're gonna make it, right? So you might get lucky, blow up. You might get lucky, someone sponsors you. Now, when it comes to the Olympics, in my mind, this is a worldwide sporting event. So how can the athletes not get taken care of properly? Not to mention what we were talking about out there is the cost of training, the cost of coaching, the cost of nutrition, the cost of recovering and taking care of your body. It doesn't even add up to the amount of money that you get. And for me, you know, I think that ecosystem needs to be better. I feel like this shines a light down on there, creates some transparency, because like I always say, money goes somewhere, but does it go to the right place?
Yeah. Well, and for example, to give you an idea there, when the highest funding you can get in my country is when you are top 8 in the world. At that point, you get 800 euros. Let's call it $800 a month, which I cannot cover rent with that. But at the same time, you are also expected to perform within the top 8 of the world of $800. It's, you know, you look at who you're competing against, and you know the cost that it takes for just your nutrition, your recovery, your travel, all these different things. It's nowhere near. And in my last year, for example, I was doing a lot of swim clinics. I was coaching. So my average week, I would swim from Monday to Friday. Friday night, I get on a plane, fly wherever I have to go in the States. Then Saturday, Sunday, I'm on the pool deck all day. I'm working. Sunday night, I get on the plane, come back. It's close to midnight. And then in the morning at 7 a.m., I'm back on deck. And sometimes I would do that 3 weeks in a row. And swimming is a tough sport, man. After 3 weeks of not having any rest, you know, you'll feel it. Yes. And I don't want to complain too much, because you know, we know that you don't make that amount of money. But this is another thing where I was looking at my season last year, and I was very happy with my season. At age 32, I was able to swim best times at every single event, still make it to the World Championship final. But I was looking at what it took to get there. And I was, you know, that's when the opportunity cost comes back. And I'm thinking, can I really justify doing this for another 2 years, 3 years? I'm by myself now. I have a girlfriend, but now put a family, put a wife, put kids, put all these things into the mix. You know, it's going to be hard going to bed at the end of the night and falling asleep, not getting an anxiety attack.
Yeah, I'm having my first baby in March, and I can tell you that my mindset has shifted. It's no longer just for me. It's like creating that legacy for my family. And, you know, I own multiple businesses. So at any time something can go wrong, you can make a mistake, you can have financial hardship. So, but in my mind, it's like, I'm always thinking, okay, what can happen? Am I prepared for this? So on and so forth. Now, biggest things with the Enhanced Games is all the fucking critics that want to say shit that they don't have any idea about. I want you to explain the safeguards and standards that the Enhanced Games has put into place, which in my mind is better than what anyone else has been giving athletes. And I've worked in almost every professional sport. Yep.
You know, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, I got a lot of criticism in my home country, Germany, which it was to be expected. But it's been portrayed that, you know, this is kind of like the Wild West, and a lot of the questions I get is, do you even have medical supervision? Do you have any doctors, or do you administer it yourself? Where if anyone knows me, I would have never joined a situation in which that would have been the case. We had our medical lead, Dan Turnout here. He did a great job kind of explaining everything to us, going over the protocol. But essentially now we have done a variety of blood tests. Actually, right after this podcast, I'm scheduled to go to a cardiologist. We're going to do an ultrasound, check in the heart again. There's lots and lots of tests that you as an athlete have to pass so that you're even considered, that you can maybe do the enhanced games. So that's not for everyone either. And then starting next year, we're going to be in Abu Dhabi. It's connected to a clinical study. And like I said, we have a team of, I think it's 7, 8, 9 doctors, somewhere in that realm. And then based off of that, based off all of the markers that they essentially saw, you have doctors giving you recommendations. And something that I also want to say is, you as an athlete, you have full autonomy. You are not entering a situation in which you're being told what to do. You get a recommendation. You can have conversations about it. If you feel good about it, you can pursue that. If not, you can always adjust, even while the protocol is going on. So if you as an athlete, you decide you want to do performance-enhancing substances and you're joining the protocol, you are closely monitored the whole way. And, that to me is really important. And like I said, all of the tests that we've been doing here, making sure that the nutrition and everything is correct. I have never had that much professionalism in my career ever. And like I said, I've been on a couple teams, never like this.
And I was just excited to provide, the things that we do with you guys: full biomechanics exam, meeting with the doctor, physical therapy, doing a VO2 RMR, doing all your nutritional blood work. Some people are doing their DNA, working with a physiologist, going through the training, going through the strength testing. I'm like, man, this is good. All the stuff I bought in here, now we can actually put it to use in one program. And I was like, man, I can really see how impactful this is in a short amount of time. Getting a private chef to cook meals for you guys with our nutritionist. I mean, it's a big deal for me to actually be able to utilize all of my personnel at one time and put it into good use, and then get nice feedback from you guys. And I just want to give the accolades not only to you as the athletes for being able to follow the protocols and do that, but just for the enhanced games on actually seeing the value to give to you guys. And I think that that's the most important part. That's what I want people to understand. I want them to understand the type of ecosystem. They went out and they found what I would determine as one of the top facilities, working with the staff and being professional. I love working with athletes, but at the end of the day, this is a profession for me. I take it extremely serious, right? Because you came in here to become better. So every minute, every day, every week matters when we have that end result that we need to chase after in May. So I think that the more that people are educated on what the Enhanced Games is actually doing, it is more geared towards safety than it is being enhanced. And being enhanced allows you to recover better, and trust me, go ask any athlete that retires. Man, I can barely move. Man, I got no cartilage left in my knees. Can't chase after my kid playing basketball. I mean, they're wrecked. They're wrecked physically, and they get wrecked mentally as well.
Well, and if you do your research, you see that the substances that are available to us, they're all approved under the FDA. Those are already substances that, if you go, to a doctor, you can get legally prescribed. And like I said, to me, the most important thing is that you're surrounded by a team of experts, that you're not on your own. Because, anyone who knows me, I wouldn't have entered an environment. And I also think that, this can also lead to so much more positive results, not just for us athletes, but also for, like you said, for not necessarily athletes, but other people outside. If you get a little bit older, these substances, they can have very, very positive effects on your body too. And I think that's a side that still isn't really talked about, we're not really looking to even have these conversations, that there could possibly be something positive coming out of it. But if you do your research, you do see that.
Yeah, my physician group that I manage, we prescribe these things to regular patients that say, man, I've never felt better. our normal clients do the same things that you guys do, just a little bit scaled back. But I'm like, so why doesn't the athletes have these resources to them? They absolutely should, they absolutely should. So I'm just glad that you're here. And, I just want the best for you guys, So let's talk about when you were in San Diego under David Marsh, then you went to the Indiana Pro Group, two very different ecosystems. What did each unlock and what didn't translate?
Yeah, so David Marsh, he's an amazing coach. He was also actually the mentor of our coach, Brad Hawk. They have been working very closely together. And I don't know, man, David is like an artist to me. David is the type of coach, when we would gather and he would introduce the set, he would stand there and for like maybe 20, 30 seconds, you see David just kind of look up and everyone's like, what's going on? What is he doing? And then he starts printing. He starts printing these sets specifically for every single athlete. And he has a very playful way of coaching, coaching. I've heard this story where at the 2016 Olympic trials, he placed so many athletes on the US Olympic team. And one of the days, they were actually, some of the athletes, they were getting quite nervous. So he went to an outdoor pool with them, told one of the assistant coaches, go buy a watermelon. Took a watermelon, threw it in the water and said, okay, everyone just play with the watermelon. And it's stuff like that where you think like, what are you doing, man? But it was exactly that which allowed all of these athletes to just completely relax and get the job done. And he has a way of getting these things out of you in such absurd or innovative, however you want to see it, ways that...
we sound similar.
Yeah. And I love that, and that's what I'm saying. It's almost like you have that empty canvas, and then you look at what you have available, and you start painting. And not every painting is the same, and that in combination with being sponge-like, absorbing knowledge around you, that was something that I loved. And then Indiana was, I would say, a lot more methodical. It was more structured. Went back more to the college-style swim training because David Marsh was purely professionals in a group. And then I went back to a college program that also allowed professionals to swim there. So two very different things, but yeah, you learn very important things in both of them. And I think, the combination of that is what was really good for me.
I love that. And then that goes back to, again, just the product of the environment, Okay, so let's talk about Worlds 2024, 8th place. That's elite, still short of the podium. What did that make you feel like? How did that determine your next drive?
Yeah, it was bittersweet because one of my childhood dreams, I know it's hard for for anyone who listens to this and who isn't familiar with swimming to know what these times mean. We have these conversations, when someone tells you I run 9.8 seconds in the 100 track, everyone is like, oh yeah, I know what that means. Yes. Now if I tell you I swam 21.99 in the 50 butterfly short course meters, people are like, great, I don't know what that really means. But I was the second German ever to go under that barrier, and it was a childhood dream of mine to break 22 seconds. It was really nice because 2017 I had my first world championship long course in that same pool in Hungary, and I absolutely choked, man. My parents came out, my grandparents came out, my best friends came out, they booked hotels, flights, and I shit the bed. I didn't do well. So then this was, in my mind, I knew this was going to be my last competition in that field. And so me being able to advance to the finals, my parents being there, watch one of my last races, it was amazing. I'm very happy with the time. Now, don't get me wrong. If you get into a final and there's 8 guys, don't finish 8th. Don't be the guy who finishes 8th, but it happens. I'm still very, very happy with that race. Now, bittersweet because I trained, last year I shifted the training where I went away from so much structure to, I wrote my own strength workouts. I trained by myself a lot. I would fly on training camps for 5 weeks by myself and coach myself, which I haven't really done so much. I still had guidance from a coach, but especially when it came down to the practices, I didn't really have teammates. And I learned to really love being by myself and being so in tune with yourself. And at that time, I've trained maybe, let's say, 7 or 8 months like that, and I was able to get that performance out of the body. So naturally, the question is, how much faster can you go? But like I said, you factor all these other things in, and I just couldn't justify keep doing it. And don't get me wrong, I would have loved to. I would love to swim until I'm 40, but economically, didn't make sense. And there's going to be a time in your career where, certain doors close. That's why I was fully in the process of applying for jobs, going through job interviews. And, I've talked to the Enhanced Games before. I had it in the back of my mind. But then, I really thought this was a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's talk about that for a second. So you're filling out, job applications. What happens? Do they call you again? Do you reach out to them? How did you end up getting here?
Yeah, so last year in October, when right before World Championships, we did a World Cup tour where you have 3 different swim meets throughout Asia. At that time, I think I was in Singapore, and I talked to one of the recruiters from the Enhanced Games because I heard about it. And like I said, I'm always intrigued by new leagues. I'm a big golf fan. I loved when Live Golf came out. The amount of shit these athletes got for signing and then them ending up merging after 2 years. Yeah. Or even when the UFC first came out and,
yes,
being titled the Clown Show. These are new disruptive formats that I think are essential also for the whole sport to be alive. But and to also keep growing, to bring new people to the audience. Look at golf now with DeChambeau being one of the most famous or like well-known faces out there, coming from Live Golf as the bad guy. But I was intrigued by it. In my mind, I was like, nah, I'm done swimming. I had enough. I'm 32 years old. I swam enough laps. Eventually down the road, I changed my mind. I've done a lot of interviews, but I always pictured myself in that little cubicle, and I just don't know if I'm the guy for that cubicle. And when I, had more conversations and I actually thought, you know what, I think this is really interesting. I educated myself more on the topic. I'm glad I made this decision.
Let's go back to the cubicle. It's because I have a very similar mindset that was in a year ago. When you're in the cubicle, you get stuck in 4 walls. And for a while, I had built this, and I had just gotten stuck in the 4 walls. And something really bad had to happen to me to make me uncomfortable, to leave out of the 4 walls. And only then could I actually telescope down and see, oh shit, this is one thing. You're meant to be so much bigger. I have so many more ideas and vision. So what are you doing in these 4 walls? And something clicked in my head that said, hey, just have to go after it and get it. Nothing about you screams that you want to sit in front of a computer at 4 walls. I mean, honestly, if you stop swimming, you're going to run a whole company. Your acumen and attention to detail is phenomenal. But sometimes we have to put ourselves in an uncomfortable environment to kind of harness that ability again. Be like, okay, that was a comfortable environment, but I want to have discomfort. Someone told me something very important. They're like, if you're uncomfortable or if you're comfortable, that means that you're following someone else's dream and footsteps. That kind of stuck with me. Like, oh shit, that is quite powerful. Well, I can tell you, I woke up this morning and it was weird. I had felt like I did 3 or 4 years ago when I was doing so much as I was trying to prove something. And I woke up, I don't know why, but I woke up like that this morning, and it was a sign that something in my life is coming big. Because it took me back when I started this. I would walk people through and be like, yeah, we're going to have this here, and we're going to have this here, and we're going to have this here. You're crazy, Sean. What are you talking about? No one has a red light bed inside of the gym. Well, I was the first. Yeah. For sure. Go back. Look, I had the first cold plunge. Now what? Every person wants to copy it, but they can't just buy the item. They got to have the recipe in order to do it. And when you said those 4 wall thing, I hear people say that in just different essence, and I stopped and be like, think about that for a second. I think you're meant for much more than this.
And it doesn't, it doesn't mean that has to be your life for forever. There's multiple various ways. I think at the end of the day, it comes down again. Why am I swimming at age 32? Sure, the financial incentive is an aspect, but I love it. I love the craft. I love swimming. And if you love something, then it doesn't feel like getting up. Like I woke up today, my body freaking hurts. We've done a workout yesterday. It was a pretty good one with you, but I'm waking up and it's my first instinct. I want to keep pushing my body. I want to go to practice again. Well, not necessarily, but at the end of the day, I love the craft. I love it, and then it's just a lot easier. And I think you just got to find your right fit, and you have that in combination with a little bit of obsession, and I think that can go pretty.
Yeah, you know, when I went to the pool the other day to watch you guys, it was just really nice watching, you know, teammates interact with each other. You know, you're under the water and you're coaching their mechanics, and then the other guy pops up and you're doing the same. Like that. That's like, you know. That's real team camaraderie that I know from talking to other athletes, especially like on the big platform, like in the NFL, because you have 50 teammates. A lot of them get lost after like, oh, I went to the gym by myself. But I usually go to the gym with all 50 of my teammates, you know, and they get lost in that. So I feel like that was really cool for me to see, because I feel like everyone felt the same way.
Absolutely. And, you know, something that I like here too is that everyone has such a great understanding and doesn't necessarily need so much hand-holding. And I think it's really, really cool when athletes start becoming coaches as well. And what I mean by that is not that that is going to be your profession, but while you're in these environments and you can actually help each other out. Like I train with some of, you know, the fastest people on the planet. We have a world record holder. We have a silver medalist at the Olympics. I would be foolish to not ask them for their technique. Sure, I have a coach, but they'll know a thing or two as well that maybe the coach can't explain in a certain way. Or, you know, you can be the greatest coach on earth, but sometimes it's the athlete figuring it out, not necessarily the coach. And I think that's what a lot of people forget, that, you know, you as an athlete, it is your job at the end of the day to figure out the technique, the you know, the mechanism in your stroke or whatever sport you do. And, you know, that's just really, really cool.
I'm glad you brought that up, because for me, I always wanted to learn and get better. So I spent a lot of time asking, you know, athletes and people that I coach, hey, how can I get better? What can I get better? Do you like this? Does this work? Can you explain to me what this feels like when you're in this scenario here? And I needed that feedback directly from you as the athlete, because that's the most important. You're giving me data from which you've already been in. Now, if you get to talk to a bunch of people like that, you start being like, okay, you start to put the pattern together. And that you can't get from the internet. You can't get that from another coach. You can only get that from the people that have actually done it before. With that being said, you don't need to be a professional swimmer to be a professional swimming coach, but you do need to submerge yourself in the environment if you want to do that, you know? Yeah, because that's always a big thing. What if you don't do this sport? I mean, as long as you understand the mechanics and as long as you communicate with those athletes, you're going to be able to understand what they do. It's the human body. Taking out swimming, take out the track, take out weightlifting. It's just focusing on that specific human being.
Yeah, and you know, like one of my philosophies is always, especially when I was coaching a lot of you know, like younger athletes, I want athletes to become more curious and being able to develop their own coach's eyes, because that is the most powerful thing you can do. You know, like again, it doesn't have to be swimming. It doesn't matter, but whatever sport or craft or whatever you do, if you can become your own coach and you can figure out a lot of these flaws, because a lot of times those are movements you don't need a coach to tell you, hey, do this movement a little bit better, extend your body a little bit more. You can do that on your own. And you know, the more athletes turn into coaches in that sense, yeah, that's really powerful. And that's one of my philosophies as well.
I love that. All right, let's talk about some of your hobbies: surfing, skating, golf, and music. How do board sports and rhythm feed your feel for the water?
I always like being on any boards, man. I was skating a lot growing up, you know, just like the really regular skateboard, street skating a lot. Then when I moved to California, a lot more longboarding. Yes. I love pump tracks. It's the most fun aerobic or like cardio workout that I've found. A little harder in Florida. It's a bit too hot there. And yeah, honestly, man, when I lived in California, surfing was amazing. I got so addicted by it because it combined the love for skating with my favorite element. And I knew that as a dangerous combination. I'm glad I didn't go to college in San Diego. I probably would have surfed more than I swam. But no, it's just nice, man, because it's an additional outlet for me to be out there. You connect, you know, it sounds so kooky, but you connect, you know, with the element. You're out there in the ocean, you have your thoughts. It's in a way, it's very spiritual. And a lot of people, when you talk to them who surf regularly, it is a way for them to kind of keep their inner balance. And you know, that doesn't have to be surfing. Everyone has their own things, but I've always loved it. Now there's no waves in Florida, which, you know, that sucks a little bit.
You know, I'm from Hawaii, but I wouldn't lie to you and explain that the water and me are difficult friends. You know,
Awful out there.
Yes, I'm more of a land power animal. You know, but I absolutely love going to Hawaii and putting my feet into the sand, man, into the beach. It is a spiritual healing for me, for sure. I actually think I'm going to go in November. I haven't taken a vacation in over a year, and I felt like the need that I need to recharge for 1 week. Yes. You know, one of my business mentors said, it's never a good time to go on vacation when you own a business. So you just have to book it and go, because whatever problem you had is going to go there, and it's also going to be there when you come back. I said, okay. And this person's very successful. I'm like, understood. Because I'm like, oh, I'll put it off. And then like 2 years later, they haven't gone anywhere. And that's no good, because when you get burned out, worst thing is you lose your creative space. At least that's what happens to me.
Yeah, and I also think, you know, you don't need 2 months or 1 month or 3 weeks. Sometimes just a week, you know, 10 days, whatever it is. Sometimes that is enough to where you return to your place and you actually like, oh man, I'm glad I am in this position, you know? Like at this point, I'm struggling with going on vacation for more than 3 weeks because I'm like, I got to get back to it. So yes. I like the shorter amounts too. I like to split it up.
You know, the funny thing is like, I think I've been working for myself since I was like 19. So I could go and do whatever I want at any time. I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like it's worse. I feel like I'm always, oh no, I can't do that. Oh, I can't go to the doctor at this time because I have to be here. I'm like, what are you doing? You can make whatever decision you want to, but that's how my brain works. I want to always be loyal to what I'm doing. Let's talk about legacy and the next generation. So if 16-year-olds are leaving home, going to these training centers tomorrow, what is the biggest message for them that you could give?
I mean, the thing that I'll always say is, you know, do something for the love of it, for the passion. Now, that definitely means there's going to be days where you don't want to do it, and you're still going to do it, but you got to follow, you know, your passion. And I think a lot of times when you enter an environment and you kind of deep down know, I don't really want to do it, don't do it. Do it because you love it and that's your goal, and you go to bed and it's the last thing you think about, and it's the first thing you think about when you wake up. But, you know, especially in that age, it's all about technical development, building a great foundation. I think that is something that if you look at, you know, us athletes here and then also beyond swimming, I think we all have in common that we build a very, very solid base from a young age. You know, not just your endurance, but your ability for work capacity, your technical knowledge, work on your nutrition, learn more about the foods, why you eat them, what do certain foods benefit you with and why others don't. And, you know, recovery, get your sleep in. Like sleep, especially at that age when you're young and you're in boarding school and you don't have a parent telling you, hey, it's time to go to bed. You know, it's hard, but those are the things, you know, technical development, nutrition, sleep, and just build good habits. That's the most important thing.
What is your top 3 favorite recovery tools?
I would say I do like a massage, but I don't really like a long rub. I like trigger point treatments. That is something that I've always enjoyed a lot. My number 2, honestly, man, I love magnesium baths. You have one here. When you stay in it for 15, 20 minutes and you get out, my lower back, my hip isn't aching anymore. It's one of the best things. Honestly, sometimes I go to the ocean, and my goal is I have a weekly goal of spending at least 30 minutes in the ocean once a week. I think the salt water is great for you too. And then lastly, honestly, after today, I changed my mind. Right before this, I went on one of your, what is the name of the bed?
It's a Viber acoustic there.
Yeah, I went on one of those, and man, I have never had that combination where you put on the headphones, you have a certain hertz frequency, and let's say there's a thunder or rumble and you feel the sensation in your stomach. It was amazing. I did it for 30 minutes. That's why I had a coffee, so I'm ready for the podcast. But that really was amazing, because I cannot relax in public spaces. No way, but amazing.
So I have been on a mission to really find items that help with, you know, stress and anxiety and mental health, because everyone suffers from that, especially high performers, but we can just hide it from ourselves better. But yeah, my sleep is shitty. I have stress and anxiety. You get depressed. I own businesses. When you're an athlete, you get all the above. You're all your own business too. So I'm glad that you like that, because I've been searching, far and wide. So that was an in harmony program on a Rasha chair, and I'm sure you've seen the igloo that got built in here.
I want to try it.
The igloo is it's like my watermelon that David threw into the pool. So we'll have that up. That is using scalar energy technology. So we're going to put that into the In Harmony beds as well. And it uses Tesla magnet coils to give off frequency through the headphones. So it's a completely different treatment. Literally, there's gas coming out from the Rasha dome itself. So I'm really excited. I've been trying to work on that for a long time, so I'm excited for you guys to try it. And those frequencies are all programmed. They're very specific frequencies for anxiety, for depression, for performance, for like top 1% athletics. So I'm really excited for everyone to try that.
That's amazing. I've worked with that in the past when we were at competitions. I would use I have like a Hertz frequency playlist that I have to calm me down. Then the other one where you have a slightly different frequency vibration that actually lifts you up and gets you ready for a workout. So you definitely, which is why I'm always saying you got to be open for this. You can talk to some people and they're like, yeah, whatever. No, give it a shot. Like, actually try it, close your eyes and like let it happen. It's amazing, man. At competitions, I always bring a little speaker. Sometimes I have my headphones in.
I was gonna ask, are you listening to Metallica, or are you quiet and focused right before an event?
So here's the thing. I can hype myself up. I don't need a hype man or anyone getting me ready. I have a lot of intrinsic motivation. So for me, what I learned over the years, if I listen to music that is, rock music, or I'm a techno guy. I love fast beat, 135 BPMs plus techno. Now, if I do that, I'm getting too excited, almost a little like jittery, and I'm jumping in the water and I'm completely over swimming. I'm ripping to the water. So what I learned right before my races, I actually listen to reggae music. I would say my two spectrums, I love reggae dancehall music and I love techno. It's kind of, like the two opposites. It's either it's on or it's off. This morning, today was our recovery day, I put on my reggae playlist, but I will literally listen to reggae and sit in the call room and just calm myself down, because when I get into that state, I have to channel my parasympathetic nervous system. The second I can, channel that, I know I'm going to perform well.
That's amazing. I got some artists I'm going to send over to you. Thank you so much for doing this. From Essen to the world stage, your honesty about the process, the pressure is exactly why I do this. For anyone listening, pick one habit from this episode, install it, work on it, report back. Thank you so much again for doing this. I greatly appreciate it. And I commend all of you guys for the level of discipline that you have. It's quite fascinating.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having us here. It's an amazing facility. I'm going to be a little sad when I leave.
Yeah, no, us too. People, can we bring the staff to the UAE?
Nice.
Well, I might as well open up one up there. So thank you so much, Ian. I appreciate you.